this meeting to order, Central Business District meeting to order. And I'd like to remind people that's on board or viewing that this agenda is so we can discuss what's going on downtown and how we can improve downtown. This is not the platform to use if you need to criticize someone. So with that, Andrew, I'll turn it over to you.
Very good. So I'll just share the agenda. Please let me know if you all, can you see the agenda now?
Yes, I can.
So the first item on the agenda is the downtown clock, and the brief history. I think it's our working on this has been somewhat interrupted by COVID, but I think business will remember in December you looked at two considerations, basically rehabbing the clock and then also at the same time you looked at potentially putting a new face on the clock as well, as another alternative. And so I'm going to pull up, let's see here. Let me pull this up here real quick. Need to close the search here. I had this up before. I'm going to stop share screen. But anyway, in December, Central Business, decided to recommend to Town Council to do the face. So basically, to no longer pursue the clock, and then to have a either "Welcome to Downtown" or "Welcome to Christiansburg" sign placed on the clock that now that is in the first block of Main Street of West Main Street, and then that did go to council. I think it was talked about a little bit at the January 29th Central Business meeting, then went to council on February 11th. And then at that time, I think Central Business at the meeting, at the town council meeting, decided to withdraw their recommendation of the clock face to study it more. And then that's when I think there was a desire to have Mr. Poff come to the meeting to talk about the clock a little bit more and just to explore it. And so I do have the estimates that I can pull up here if that's desirable for the conversation. But I did want to provide a little bit of context. So I think really we were kind of on that page. In February, probably would have discussed it at our next Central Business meeting. But we had our Central Business meeting early in February because of to adjust it for the Arts Advisory Committee and our review of that. And then we didn't have a meeting in later February, and I think we got into March, and then we took a hiatus with it because of the pandemic. And so kind of here we are back in September, picking it back up. So.
I know I am interested in what Mr. Poff has to say. And I believe that we assumed we had clear direction, and then different information presented itself. And rather be safe than sorry, it's better to hear from you what your interest is in the clock. Thank you.
Put me on the hot seat now, Melissa. I believe we lost Sam.
Oh, did we?
We need to wait.
I can hear you. I just muted myself.
Yeah, he is not showing.
Oh, there's Sam back.
Yes. Here we go.
All right, we all got frozen out, lost or something.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're good now.
Okay. Was it?
So as you know, the history on the clock was that the Old Town Mall purchased that and donated to the town. Initially, we thought we'd have one of those freestanding type town street clocks, and the council or town administration at that time suggested it go on the pole that was already going to be installed there. So that's how that type clock got selected. And I know it's been a maintenance headache over the years. I think some of it may have been due to lost instructions on how to maintain it. Because I saw some guys just turning the face of the clock, and they said, well, they didn't know how they're supposed to do it, control it by the box down underneath. But anyway, that's some of the background. The clock, I think I'd put in an email. The idea of just having a face there looked kind of tacky to me. Now, if y'all got some designs that we could look at, you know, Scott, Jay, and I can look at them and see, but it just seemed like tacky at the time. And I think I suggested if we couldn't afford to fix the clock, to remove it off the pole. I didn't think that would be that big a deal, but to do that. Of course, ideally, we'd like to see the clock running, but you guys got to deal with the town budget. So I just don't want something to put up that looks tacky. I guess that's where I'm coming from.
And I believe, Andrew, weren't we looking at 4,500 sticks to mind as an initial fix? Is that?
Yeah, so this is what was provided to the to Central Business back in December, and we did estimate to fix this would be for both sides. It would be about $4,100 plus shipping. So it probably would be about that cost, yes.
Is there any idea of knowing how much a new clock costs? You know, using modern technology, a company that's been around a while?
We could certainly look into that a little bit more. I know that, you know, there were some examples that were floated around, I think by council. Let's see, I could pull an example up. And again, I don't have a cost for this today. Certainly happy to research it more and work with Public Works.
Well, my thought on that is if and when the redesign is discussed for Hickok, if possibly this could be a feature that's included into that budget.
I have a question for everyone. I keep getting kicked off the line. Is it just me or what?
I've been fine.
Is there a notice that says that your internet connection is? Sometimes you'll see a warning if it's on your end, Sam. I think it's frozen again. I'll recommend once he comes back probably to disconnect and to reconnect again, and hopefully it'll be a stronger connection. But he appears, yeah, that his screen is still frozen.
You got dial up?
Yes, he could call in as well. So can you all see the street clock that's on my screen now? Or is it, I apologize, it's a little hard to tell which, because I have two screens.
Four-sided one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, just.
And then there's a two-sided on the right-hand side here as well. And I mean, as far as placement, certainly, you know, the market could be one. I think, you know, our central square, I mean, our, you know, the four squares, you know, right in the heart of downtown kind of lend itself as well, you know, one of the green space areas, you know, where the, you know, if it could be done in a visible place where the Christmas tree is potentially. You know,
I was thinking too,
got great options, yeah.
the old clock on the pole right now, that'd make a really cool O in a new love sign.
Mm.
But
No,
it might look good on the corner there, like Marissa was saying, you know, move it down if you were to move it, to put it on the corner of Hickok and Main.
Visually, I could just see it at an entrance. But I mean, I know that we're talking about just Mr. Poff's today. And this can definitely be a future conversation, I would think. But I'm not sure if spending $4,500 to fix the clock is going to work for us long term. It seems like a short-term fix. I'd rather do it right if we're going to do it and work on a clock that is more modern for us, that just appears older, and use that in one of our structures and include that in the budget.
Andrew,
Yes, you're back on. Excellent.
Andrew, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Sam. It still seems to be a spotty connection.
Oh, where's Sam? He might be better off calling in.
Yeah. Yes, so let me give him a call real quick and suggest that. So if you all could bear with me for, oh, here he is back, okay. Okay, I think you're muted, Sam.
Okay, how about now?
Great, yeah,
Well, I keep getting lost for some reason. I don't know what's going on.
okay. If it happens again, it may be the best to call in. And if that would work, I think that you could be promoted to be a speaker.
Okay, because I
Text
didn't
me
hear.
shortly if I said that incorrectly.
Well, I didn't hear anything that Marissa had to say.
Okay. So I think in a nutshell, it was a question of, is it a viable long-term solution to fix the current clock at $4,500? Would we want to look at a permanent clock at a location downtown at Hickok and Main Street, or there could be other locations? Is that fair, Marissa?
Yeah, you represented that great.
Okay, because I kind of had the same idea about moving it, and I don't know how Mr. Powell feels about that. I mean, you know, to me, his input's very important.
I don't have a problem with moving it. Like say, our original thought when we were donating the clock was to do a freestanding clock, kind of like Andrew has shown on the pictures,
Right.
separate. So I think that'd look nice in the town. Again, as far as repairing this one, I'm kind of the opinion that for $4,100 or $45,000 that you're getting a whole new guts, that it's not going to be old technology, it would be new. You might check it out because the company that made that clock, I understand, went out of business. And I think that's part of the problem, getting parts. So I feel like the price Andrew had might have been for basically a whole new internal parts for it. But I'm fine if you do another clock somewhere else. I'm fine with that also on that end of it. And Marissa, one time you said you had a clockmaker or repairman. You might have to look at him. I didn't know if that turned out or not.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you'd like him to look at it, he's repaired all kinds of other antique and old and unique clocks. So yeah, sure. I'll send you a message.
Yeah, I mean, if you have somebody who wants to look at it, I mean that's up to you in the town. I just you had mentioned that one time.
Right. Yeah, Andrew, I don't know if we need.
Yeah, I think, yeah, we can mention it to Randy and to Jim Lancenes and see, you know, if there's someone that has an expertise in it, you know, that
Okay.
because I don't believe we have had anybody that has experience with clocks specifically. Take a
Well,
look.
if it's not working right now, I guess we've got nothing to lose to try.
Right.
So it's unfortunate that nobody has instructions for it. That might help some if we'd had those.
Yeah, yeah. Has anybody tried to research an old manual that someone else might have put online?
I know when it came up earlier that was, that there was a bit of research done to try to find out, all the information behind it. So yeah, I can circle back around. I can't remember exactly what was done.
Okay.
On
Andrew, can I jump in for a second?
Sure.
That 80s song freeze frame is coming to mind.
Yeah.
You know?
Andrew, this is Melissa. If he does call in, he can hear the whole conversation and speak.
Okay.
So, and those, I believe those numbers were in the agenda you sent out. If not, I can shoot him an email.
Okay. Yes. If you wouldn't mind shooting him an email, that would be great. So he has it on the top of this, the email list, because I'm sure.
Sounds good. I'll do that.
Thank you.
Bob, if the clock was removed, saying it can't be fixed, whatever, what would you do with it? Just curious, because it's still an amazing piece.
I hadn't thought about that. And like I said, if you come up with something that doesn't look tacky to put in the face, I guess. I think
Yeah.
what was mentioned was town logo or something, and I just think, well, everybody knows they're in Christiansburg.
Yeah, yeah.
They should
No,
know.
I keep thinking that there just has to be a way to pull the guts out and put new guts in, and traditional clocks aren't that expensive. So I'd really be curious in alternative options.
And that is basically electronic works, because it's supposed to be controlled with the box that's on the bottom of the hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's got some electronic workings to it.
I think that's a decent choice. I don't know if it'll bring the price down any. If we have more digital components than we do the winding components, which is like more authentic.
Yeah.
But I know they make clockworks now that look vintage on the outside and are very modern on the inside. That would be perfect.
Well, I think this one was, at the time, was pretty modern. It even automatically supposed to set some time. It was supposed to tie it in somewhere, I think. I'm not sure how it worked.
Yeah. Well, I hope Sam comes back on soon.
Yeah. While we're waiting for Sam, this is what we had looked at in December. And I think the central business was still wanting to, maybe change, when they're still pursuing this idea, change the lettering, maybe make it a semicircle, a little bit more, change it a little bit, but this is kind of the initial thought for doing that. So.
And I think now that one's off the table.
Okay, I just wanted to have it out there so that to refresh everybody's memory what we were looking at in December.
Well, I hadn't seen them, I just heard about it.
Does this change your mind at all, Mr. Pop?
A lot of things changed my mind since COVID happened. So, hopefully I'm more mellow.
So the proposal really, as I shared this earlier, but it was a full retrofit of the clock assembly. It was new bezel assemblies, new dials, new clock hands, new clock movements, LED edge lighting, and then automatic rest controller, which it says it allows the clock to reset itself due to power failure. And also that's when daylight savings happens.
It just seems to me that we could replace the inside workings and still keep the face and the bezel unless it's broken in some manner. I don't see where that would change. We could always do without the lighting. That's a savings. Just a few suggestions. Maybe we can go back to the drawing board and, modify our ask, especially now since COVID, a lot of businesses, they need the work. So the prices might have actually went down.
But then, Mr. Poff, didn't you say that this company has went out of business, and so it'd have to be all new works would have to be replaced because you can't get the parts from that company?
But
Yeah, that's
feel
what I
like
was mentioning, Marty, was to take the whole inside and replace that. But our prior quote included the bezel and the facing, which if we can salvage what we already have, that'll save money.
I think it would be worth checking into.
Mhm.
Why did they quote the whole thing?
Do
So-
you know, Andrew, when that quote was done?
So it was done either November or December of
Okay.
last year.
And maybe we can go back to that same company and ask them, or if somebody already knows, possibly why that whole set was included instead of just the inside works.
I'm assuming we really don't know what's wrong with the clock.
That'd be great if we could figure it out.
I mean, if you had a good repairman and worked on clocks like that, I just don't know where you find them at.
We don't know if there's another clock similar to this anywhere else in another locality, do we?
I don't offhand, but that's a good thought.
I'm sure we could find out. I think Pulaski has one.
Theirs may be freestanding. I'm not sure. But yeah, but as far as the internal components and them having to maintain it as a locality, they may have been dealing with similar things that we're dealing with now. So just as an update, Sam is actually on his way here to Town Hall, and we'll figure out. We have it playing live in the admin conference room, but we don't have a camera set up in there, so he may need to. We both may need to mask up and then just share my computer here. So he'll be here shortly.
We'll make sure this is all okay with Sam when he comes back. But I'm thinking if we could pull together the pricing options by next meeting and invite you back, Bob, to review those results and then talk about a potential next step.
And that's fine. I mean, like I say, I'm not trying to be a stick in the mud. I just want something to look nice. And if you need to go with just something we can come up to go in the dial, that's fine. If you can't repair it.
Sam just arrived, so if you excuse me for a second, I'm going to go ahead and get us situated here. I'll be right back.
I will pause myself as well.
what you want.
Yeah.
So they, yeah. It's hard, yeah, on Wednesdays we have a meeting at 1:30, so it's hard to, I think they're all taking a break. So I think we're good to go here.
Sam, you weren't gone long enough.
Yeah.
I tried to eat the lunch real quick. I warmed up before the meeting.
Oh, yeah, I got about 5 minutes of meeting. That's about it.
Well, I wanted to mention to you what I had said while you were gone, which was to task Andrew with looking for alternatives as far as replacing the inside mechanisms only and nothing, no bezel, no face, because all that's still good. Coming back to our next meeting with Mr. Poff and going over those results and determining our next step then. How do you feel about that?
That's good.
Okay.
Set up with a camera in a couple minutes.
Okay, great, thank you. Man. So would you like some estimates of new clocks potentially to look at that cost, a rough ballpark of what a new
It
clock?
can't hurt.
Yeah, okay. All right.
And I know that our budget is cut a little shorter on Hickox Street. We didn't get as much as we wanted. But perhaps if it comes back at anything reasonable, it could be included in those funds for that project.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Mr. Poff.
Thank you for inviting me.
Bob, you're welcome to stick around. We're going to be, let's see, next on the agenda. I don't know if you have, I don't know if you have teaching duties today.
I'm off on
Obligations.
Thursdays.
Yeah, very good. But the next item on the agenda is the Public Art Advisory Board membership, and the Public Art Advisory Board is going well. Meeting each month. They've just done a mission statement and started talking about table of contents, and we're going to be getting back together at the beginning of October, second week of October, to finalize that mission statement, and then start to give a bit more direction to staff of how we can fill out the different chapters of the plan, and potentially different members will be taking on different chapters, but we're still going to finalize those details at the last meeting. One item that has come up with the board is that council did, on recommendation of central business, they did appoint 5 members from the community, plus Marissa as a council liaison and myself as a staff liaison to the board. And we have one member that has not been able to make any meetings and has not reached out to staff on letting us know what's going on. So we would recommend removing that person from the committee, from the board, and then in their stead recommend the replacement with one of the other members. It could be done several different ways. We could re-advertise it. We could take a look at the 19 applications that we had before. We could circulate those back out to look at, or we could look at the scoring that was done by the committee back in, I guess it was in January. And there were 9 members nine applicants that received a score. 5 of those were appointed, 4 were not. So one option would be to recirculate those 4 applications for the committee to rescore those 4 applications to see, who they would think would be a strong candidate, and then to have further discussion on who they think would be the best candidate to recommend to council. So I think those would be the 3 options that I think would be available. There may be others that I'm not thinking of, but I did want to throw those out there.
Marissa, I know you're a liaison, but I don't see any need to go through the whole process again. If we already have some applicants on file, why not choose from the next 4?
I think so too, because to me, I would consider them the alternates.
Right.
And then we can come up with a recommendation and bring that to council, because ultimately, I think that's what they're going to ask for.
Sure. Okay.
Very good. So I will get that out to you all in the next 2 weeks. And
Okay.
so we'll be in a position to make a final recommendation at the next meeting.
Sounds great.
Very good. Great. Let's see. Next on the agenda is a rally grant update, and I think Sharon Robertson is in the waiting room. So Melissa, if you wouldn't mind promoting Sharon, and here she is. And not that she's going to be responsible for the report, but she will have valuable insight, I'm sure. So the rally grant, the design of the pocket park is going well. There was a lot of public input on the 2 designs, and they did discuss a cost estimate at the last meeting. And unfortunately, I was not able to make that meeting, but I know that that fundraising is the next, is the next big phase of this project to get ready for construction. And then also, and with fundraising, that means it could be cash contributions, it could be in kind. And there was a request for the town to look at, is there any in kind contributions, more specifically, towards removal of some of the, helping with the concrete removal and soil removal, and where that was left is still, I still need to get a sense of the volume of that, and then by talking to the site designer, Steve Simonis, and then get up with Public Works to get a sense of what our contribution could be with our current staffing availability. But as far as other fundraising efforts, I didn't know if, was there one particular design that was actually chosen at this time to move forward with?
There was, yes. The 2 designs, they were somewhat close as far as numbers. And Sharon, you might know, but I want to say like 46 to 54. So it leaned more towards the one design. And we did talk about fundraising. There's been a lot of ideas thrown out there, like you said, sponsorships. And we did discuss the cost. It's a little bit more elevated than we had expected. And there's a few things to consider that the group is going to be talking about, which is what happens if you can't fundraise enough? Does the project get put on hold right now because of COVID? Or do we scale it back into something that we can afford, and possibly leave room to add things on later? And so I think that's a conversation I had with Ellie, and it'll be discussed in a future meeting. So, because we went from a very small grant to 60,000, and even with trades, that's a pretty hefty amount to fundraise during a pandemic. So that was a concern. So Sharon, whatever you want to add.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know that we were at 200 responses. The last update I got from Ellie, and they were tallying that up and kind of triple checking to make sure we had the correct winner because it was really close, which is super exciting that so many people participated. And also to the fundraising part, I know Ellie wanted me to share with you all today that we submitted a grant to Virginia Main Street pitch competition. And it's for a $5,000 grant that could go towards the pocket park. And if we are a finalist but don't win, we can still get technical assistance from DHCD. So she wanted me to share that with you all as well. And I'll update you that as I get
That's great.
the answer.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
So-
that's great.
So I guess the rally committee will meet next Monday. If that's, I think that would be the next regular scheduled meeting.
Yes, so I'll be sending that out to everybody as well as the tentative schedule going forward, because I think at this point in time, the baton has kind of been handed to DCI to kind of finish stuff and tailor it out and just start appointing the fundraising committees and subcommittees. So yeah, I should have some kind of a tentative schedule going forward coming out within this week to everyone.
Great, excellent. So I think that probably is it for the rally grant for this meeting. The next item on the agenda is farmers market update.
Let me just update you on a couple of events before I get into the meat of what I want to bring up with you all today. We only have 6 markets left, so you know, we got to start thinking about the rest of the year and even next year. But we're looking right now that the parade will be the week of December 12th. We're still working out the details on that, but if you haven't heard, it will be a drive-through reverse parade. Right now, we're looking at the mall, and we've got the plans in place. We're working on that. But as part of that, you know, we used to have the tree lighting ceremony and everything associated with the parade. So what's doing the parade, we look now at doing a separate tree lighting on December 10th, which would be a Thursday, which would open up the opportunity that we're trying to look through some details whether we can still have the holiday farmers market that we typically have if we are still doing social distancing and the COVID-19 restrictions. So we're definitely looking at December 10th for tree lighting, but as part of that, it could also include the market, which is more of a Christmas market with, you know, the arts and crafts types of things. The sustainability project that I'm sure some of you all have seen is where we've been collecting the recycling the plastic bags. The goal was to go through December. Well, as of today, we're only 7 pounds away, and I probably have got that today. So we'll probably go ahead and put in our final results, and we'll be getting a Trex bench sent to us here in the next few weeks. COVID-19 has affected all of us, and especially our small businesses. And, you know, as part of the market, we've been trying to involve the small businesses as much as possible. Well, through Sharon and DCI, we've combined efforts, and we're doing a COVID survival kit for a lot of the downtown businesses, and we've got those ready to be some delivered tomorrow. That has items in there including gloves, sanitizer, face mask, and signage. So when they fully are now opening, they'll have some things to use. So we hope to distribute those tomorrow. Just for a note, Night Full of Fright, Saturday, October 31st, will be up here at the Rec Center. That's our Halloween event from 5 to 7. We will have a drive-through trick-or-treating where they'll receive a bag of goodies. So with 6 markets to go, you know, I've stepped up the effort because we had to look at the situation with Hickok Street on how and what we're going to be dealing with. And looks like we're going to look at least through 2020. You know, we're going to look at another 2 years that we'll have to have a temporary site. So we began in cooperation with Andrew and Randy this past week. We started looking at sites throughout Christiansburg and looking at the original sites that the town council had looked at when the market was formed. We've narrowed it down to 13 possible sites, private and public. And I've sent that to Andrew, and he can forward it to you, Sam and Marissa, that if you've got any others we can look at, we'll add them to the list. They range anywhere from mostly, 6 to 8 spots downtown or at least off Main Street. And then including the rec center, the skate park, the aquatic center, and the Montgomery County Health Department, and even the proposed new fire station lot out on Roanoke Street. Now, when we looked at it, we broke it down on characteristics. And Sam, if you and Marissa have got more that you want to add, please let me know. But we included location, visibility, parking, which at least 20 plus spaces, vendor space for at least 20, 6 spaces minimum, whether it's flat, whether we'll have to do some construction, whether it has power, whether its bathrooms are nearby, whether it is downtown, whether we have accessibility for elderly people and also handicapped, where it's a private versus public, whether we'd have to construct something and whether we'd have to lease something, and whether the site is currently paved. So that was our characteristics that we came up with. So if you got any more, we can add to that.
Marty, has anybody talked to Greg Wade?
That's on our list. But
Okay, sorry, I must have missed that.
Yeah, we've been told that that lot has been sold. I haven't verified it, and we don't know it for sure yet. But we'll, I had talked to him, and it's not currently being used, but it is on our list of 19 possible sites that we narrowed it down to. And Andrew can pass that along, the blank sheet, to you to look at, Marissa. It's 19 sites that we felt like could be the possibility of the size and what we wanted to do, because we're going to have it for at least 2 years on this site that we choose before we could possibly think of going back to Hickok or any other site. So he does have that list, and it's my hope to at least tell the vendors by the time we're done this year what we're considering, and if they have any ideas and characteristics for a farmer's market they'd like to add, we can add some of theirs too. But talking to the vendors, most of these characteristics is what they look for and what we need. So that's one reason I included it in the list, Marissa. But I at least want to tell the vendors before the season is over, or when the season is over, what we're looking at and what they should expect for next year.
Thank you, appreciate that.
And me and myself and Brad Epperly have toured a lot of these spots, and we went and measured them and had Dayton downtown look at how many spots we have, because you got to look at both vendor parking and patron parking and walking, how they would get to the lot. And we've already narrowed ours down to 5, but we wanted to see other people's feelings about it, and Andrew and Randy's feelings about it. But we've narrowed it down even lower than that just by looking at accessibility, size, and if you could walk to it.
Are you looking for central business input, looking at the list and getting back with you, or is it just an FYI?
Well, I'd like for you to look at it, and if you've got any suggestions, please make that, because we think this list is pretty extensive. To be honest, there's not that much available, especially public land. The private land the town would have to buy or lease, and we would, I think, rather avoid that, and we did mark that on this list. But we do have a lot of the public spots, and that do have size with them that we can use.
Thanks, Marty. As always, you're doing a great job.
The other thing I did want to mention to you guys that in addition to looking at the doing a holiday market, we are looking to do, I don't know if you remember the last 2 years, there was a Friday lunch thing done at Hickok Street. And with the commotion and everything, and with it being back open, we tried to avoid that. But we are looking at, in the month of October, to invite at least 2 or 3 food trucks to locate in the far end of the Recreation Center park lot on Fridays. And we're going to open it that we'll have a food truck Friday for people if they want to come by and get lunch. So that does generate a little more local business. Any questions?
Okay. Okay. Very good. Yep. So the next item on the agenda is other business. So I didn't know if it, yeah, okay. So I'm not sure if it's worth to move or not right now.
Probably not, we've about finished.
Okay. We have the other computer ready to go for Sam.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Longer, we may do that.
I did have a few things written down.
Yes.
Okay. I was just curious about the update on the Continental Divide sign. I know we put something up temporarily, and I didn't know if this was still on the agenda.
So as far as having it as part of our wayfinding signage,
Well, I know Melissa was interested in getting something that fit into a little better the wayfinding signs that we currently have. And at one time, I think we were talking about the town creating its own sign.
mhm.
I just didn't know if that was still on our radar.
I mean, yes, Melissa is on as host and may be able to supplement this, but my understanding was we were fairly comfortable with the design of the sign, that it was fairly compatible with the wayfinding signs, the one that we ended up with. So that would be the permanent sign.
Oh, okay.
The location out on West Main Street.
Mhm.
Is
Okay.
that
Right.
Melissa?
Yeah, my understanding at the time was that we weren't pursuing anything with wayfinding, so I have not pursued that, but I'm happy to look into it. We don't have a sign type currently designed that would be a good fit for that spot. We would need a smaller sign type than what we have currently. So I do think there would be a cost associated with that. So I think that that was a discussion I at least had with staff at some point, and that's why we just held with the sign that we created in-house.
Okay. Just curious. I appreciate that. The next thing on my list was if there's any update on the webcam proposal now that we've had a new IT person for a little while.
There has been some conversation as far as looking at the COVID dollars for wireless allowance in working with the county. The webcam, we'll need to pick that back up. And
Okay.
that, yeah, I think it has been the knowledge and an experience we have with our new IT director is great. And so I do think, yeah, it's just a matter of picking it back up, and you kind of see the improvements that we've already had to the council chambers. And so,
Oh, yeah.
yes, I just think it's a matter of, those are kind of wrapping up. I think we're replacing the mics because the mics sometimes pick up a lot of background noise. And I think that's really going to be the last major change in there. So we can certainly bring that up to Craig, and he may have already have been doing some work because we talked to him early on about it, but let me look into that.
Okay. Sam, is that still okay to add to
Yeah.
your agenda?
Yes.
Okay.
The last time we had talked to the county, we had talked about working with them to mount cameras on top of the sheriff's building, and the last IT director was working with their IT director, so we just need to kind of circle back around and see where we were with that and how far along it was. So,
Sounds good. Okay. Next thing on my list, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say it may be something that, depending on cost, would be something that would need to be a budget item for the next next year's budget.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. Call me.
He
Okay,
agreed
so
to.
the next thing was the facade grant. I was just wondering if we're putting a pause on it because of COVID and funding, or if we're going to continue with that.
So it is currently funded in this year's budget. And we have every intention of rolling it out. We've really been focused towards the small business grant program and the nonprofit recovery grant program and the child care grant program that just got released yesterday. That is going to be at least taking up quite a bit of my time for the next month and a half. So I'm thinking December, January timeframe that we would be in a position to roll that out and to really put staff time and energy towards it.
Okay, sounds good.
Is that amenable? I mean, if there's something that we'd like to push out earlier, certainly we can regroup, but our energies really have been focused more towards getting those ACT dollars out.
I would actually, I kind of expected it to be put on hold. So anything is a welcome surprise.
I mean, it is currently funded. So unless, council wanted to think about it otherwise, it is, we were, staff would simply be carrying out the program like any other year. We're just a little behind and when we would have liked to roll it out. I think last year we rolled it out in late summer, early fall, if I remember correctly.
Right. Okay. I have one last thing on my list, and that is where council just recently changed the codes for the streets. I don't know what the proper term is for that. How are we going to alert the businesses that are affected by this? I mean, we can share it on social media, but is there another better way for the businesses to know that they can immediately start to make changes to their sidewalk space?
Yeah, so we do have an application available now that we finished up at the end of last week. And I do need to get that to Sharon and DCI so that they have it available to their, to distribute. And then it would be a matter of, we can put out we don't really have a targeted listserv. I mean, we can actually, let me talk with Sharon maybe offline, because we had, I think together we could pull together a pretty good list of businesses to target for downtown and property owners. So to make them aware, since it is a limited group of folks that would be affected.
Right.
Sidewalk.
Yeah, and if the town doesn't mind making a social media post, I think we can all share it and spread the word that way too.
Okay.
But I appreciate that, because I just want to make sure that those who can make changes know about them. And that's all I have for now.
Is that it? I can't see the agenda. All right. Well, I guess if there's nothing else, then we're going to call this meeting adjourned. And I appreciate everyone coming in this morning, and I apologize for having technical difficulties.
Well, Sam, I do want to bring up an update that I brought to Marissa's attention. The US 11 monument that was discovered, it's been discovered, it's just setting on top of the Memorial Monument in downtown Christiansburg. After talking with Craig over at the county, we've sort of done some back research. That monument, Marissa, or that piece of granite was in the ground at the edge of the road when the town of Christiansburg replaced the sidewalks. Well, for some reason, they put it out and they decided to put it over there. And, we went through a lot of change with people, both the county and the town during that time, where the lack of communication or what happened, it ended up setting on a memorial spot. Craig was going to get with Andrew and Randy to see what we could figure out for a new location, but it's currently setting on the War Memorial Monument base.
Yeah.
And that's where it got moved, because originally when I first saw it, it was over at the old courthouse across the street. Well, somewhere along the line, when they renovated the courthouse 3 times ago, it got moved over to the sidewalk, which at the edge of the road was probably more appropriate. And it was in the ground, not in a sidewalk, but it was in the ground. So when the sidewalks were replaced and remodeled and renovated, they moved it, and the lack of communication, it's been sitting there ever since.
And I believe that that is a real feather in the cap for Christiansburg as far as celebrating history that's unique and, you know, very touristy, if we could make it something people would want to take pictures of. But I see something like this in the Arts Committee offering suggestions to central business. Would you agree with that, Sam?
Yes.
Okay.
And there are 2 current time capsules buried in that 4 square.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also a 3rd spot that the county put in place underneath the Eagle on the law enforcement courtyard. And after talking with Craig about the US 11 marker, they're in the process of trying to put together an effort that would be after the first of the year. Because I don't know if you all realize, but it's the anniversary of the founding of Montgomery County next year. And with COVID-19, they thought about holding a lot of things. But he's like, well, maybe we can go ahead and start looking at putting together a new time capsule that could be put on the town square down there.
That's great.
And so I know Randy was going to be talking with Craig about a number of items, including the Route 11 marker. And so if that's something that if the county is agreeable to, then we can work with Public Works to at least secure it, you know, remove it, either bring it, you know, to either the town hall or to Public Works lot in a secure location until we figure out what to do. I mean, it's a pretty significant piece of granite, but if somebody is, you know, if somebody really wants to and enough guys are there, they could probably take it. Not, you know, I hate to even say that, but so we probably, I think that was the initial concern of having it just out there. And so, yeah, we can move forward to trying to secure it in the interim while we figure out a long-term plan.
A little Tommy gate on a truck should do it.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. Sam, back to you.
All right, well, I'll do it a second time. If there's nothing further, this meeting's adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.